Great. Joining us now, former British Colonel Richard Kemp. Richard, there he is. And Richard has a great sense of humour as well, and always has. And unfortunately, we're not going to get much of that this morning because it is a very serious topic we're talking about. But Richard, always great to have you here on Outsiders. Want to ask you about the Gaza peace plan. How likely is it to succeed? What is Hamas playing at with this kind of, oh, yeah, don't worry, we will release the hostages, but dancing around the other issues? Where do you think we are and where are we going, Colonel Kemp?
Well, I think my first rule of anything is whatever Hamas say or whatever any other jihadist terrorist groups say, don't believe them. Yeah. Part of their doctrine is called taqiyya, which is lying in order to deceive your enemy, and it's not just legitimate, it's required in their doctrines. It may be, we can hope, I think, that they may have been pushed so hard by Israel in the war that they feel they have no choice other than to accede to what's about to happen, or what they've said they will do, which is to release the hostages. There is a split in Hamas, and that split is essentially between the foreign-based Hamas leaders in Qatar, particularly, and those in Gaza. The Qatar-based leadership, I understand, want to accept this deal, want to go along with it, whereas in Gaza they don't really want to do so. We don't know exactly what the dynamics are there, but I wouldn't trust them any further than I could throw them. They're sure to be playing for time. And the other point to bear in mind, I think, is that they've said, yes, we will release the hostages. They've said that. Doesn't mean they will, of course. But they have essentially not agreed really to the other provisos that have been laid down in the 20-point plan from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. And of course, the whole thing goes together. So I think it's a question of let's see how it unfolds. I've no doubt Israel is ready to go immediately back onto the offensive if this turns out to be just playing for time.
Richard, what's the Arab world's input and attitude to this peace deal?
I think the Arab world is extremely important, and it goes beyond even just the Arab world. The support for this peace deal has come from countries like Indonesia and other, which is, of course, a major Muslim country, and other Muslim countries around the world. And that's critically important. And I've no doubt that has played a major role in persuading the leadership in Qatar, the Hamas leadership in Qatar, that they really need to go along with it. And I think it's very hard. It's really hard for many of Hamas's cheerleaders in different places around the world, including here in the UK, to try and encourage Hamas to keep fighting, which they've been doing since the war began, while they've got this very united Islamic front, which demands Hamas lays down its weapons. It demands Hamas release the hostages, and that Gaza is run not by Hamas, but by an international entity initially anyway.
James.
Colonel Kemp, you mentioned just a moment ago supporters of Hamas in the West. One of the things that has absolutely struck me is the way now with Hamas now isolated largely in the Arab world, which I think no longer sees Palestine as a cudgel with which it can beat the West. The way there are so many in the West who are cheerleading against this deal and who are, giving only the most grudging satisfaction to the Trump administration. What is the, in the UK, tell us about the mood there. We saw those horrific protests against the flotilla being stopped just after that Manchester terror attack. What is happening in Western liberalism that it seems to be still supporting Hamas?
Yeah, and I think the same is true in your government in Australia. The British government under Keir Starmer, the Canadian government, the French, they've, as you all know, they've recently recognised a non-existent and never going to exist Palestinian state, and of course that was welcomed by Hamas. Hamas praised your Prime Minister, they praised our Prime Minister and the other world leaders for going along with this so-called two-state solution. So our governments have been encouraging it, really encouraging it. And I think we saw the breakdown of previous negotiation over hostage release as a direct result of the decision taken certainly by Keir Starmer and Macron to announce at least their intention to go along with a two-state solution. So we've seen frightful appeasement of Hamas. We've seen demands made against Israel to stop defending itself, while no demands have been made against Hamas. So I think they have marginalised themselves in many ways. People like Albanese and Starmer have marginalised themselves in the stance they've taken, because the entire Arab world, as we've said, most of the Muslim world, pretty much, has come out against Hamas and really against what Albanese, Starmer, etc. have been doing and trying to do themselves in relation to the Middle East. They've become non-players now as a result of this.
Well, Richard, I said you had a great sense of humour, so I'm going to tell you a great joke. And that joke is that Anthony Albanese is trying to take credit for Donald Trump's peace plan. Can you believe it? He's actually...
That is a great joke, and I wouldn't believe it except for the fact that we've got the same over here with Mr. Starmer doing the same thing. I think it's an infectious humour that we're seeing.
Exactly, lefty humour.